on how to treat these critical minerals. Stay with us. Welcome back. The point of view tonight is discussing Ghana's lithium deal, but we're also asking in this second part what we can learn from some African case studies. Now, the DRC is exceptionally rich in a variety of critical minerals, making it a key player in the global supply chain for electronics and clean energy technologies. For example, cobalt. The DRC is the world's leading producer of cobalt, accounting for over 70% of the global supply. And they also have approximately half of the world's proven reserves. They also are blessed with copper, tin, and tungsten and other critical minerals. Professor Hercule Kalele is joining me from the DRC to talk about their approach to managing this resource and what we can learn. Prof, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good to have you in Ghana. What organization do you work for?
I'm working for two organizations. The first one is African Excellence Center for Battery, and the second one is the Congolese Battery Council.
So the African Center of Excellence for Batteries, what do you do there? What does it?
That is the academic part of the project, whose aim to build the capacity, how to call it again, the competencies, because the company who are coming will need a labor workforce with high scales. So at the African Excellence Center for Battery, you are building that capacity and you are innovating and doing research in the battery field.
So that's on the academic side. What about the Congo, the second organization?
The second organization, the Congolese Battery Council, that is the establishment from the government part, who is leading to put in place all the steps of the battery value chain.
So what has Congo done with these critical minerals that you believe is a key to economic transformation?
What we do right now is we think the policy we just putting in place just to change the way you are thinking, the way we are doing, to take some action. Is that to convert from before it was like we have this mineral is coming from the pit to the port, but right now we want to add value and we integrate some new products, which is battery, electric battery for electric vehicle. So we are putting in place all the steps in the battery value chain from upstream to downstream. But we're not going to directly to downstream. We are going step by step. So we think that this initiative, you cannot do it by alone, because we are not the only one who getting that reserve. Our neighbor, the Zambian country, have also some reserve that we need that enter in the manufacture of battery precursor. So what we think and what we are together is to take together an initiative that will put battery and vehicle special economic zone where we're gonna manufacture battery precursor, where we're gonna transform, refine the cobalt, refine nickel on all the component that is going in the battery.
So this is something you're doing jointly with Zambia?
Yeah.
Is it already happening or is something you've planned to do?
Okay, it's happening. We are taking in some action. The first one is the agreement we signed between two countries, Zambia and DRC. We signed an agreement to develop the special economic zone. And the second agreement we signed is about DRC, Zambia, UNECA, Afreximbank, and BADEA. So Arabic Bank for Development, for Economic Development for Africa. So that agreement put in place a new mechanism that this project needs. So we see all the aspects of the project. And then we move forward, doing, okay, we need to choose where the located of the zone, because it's the conjoint zone, transborder zone. One part in Zambia, one part in Congo. Where is the best location? The best location have been funded. And we move again forward. We design a joint development agreement that we have promoter, we have the two countries between, and that agreement will be signed very soon. And after that steps, we move to going for financial model, design a financial model, and also we have a master plan for the how to call it, a management of the zone, the special economic zone.
So, by which date do you expect DRC to be producing batteries in your country?
That is a very, very difficult question. To produce battery is a good thing, but we need to build an economical ecosystem. Because if you produce battery right now, but if it's not entering the economical ecosystem, your battery will not be sold. So you need to go step by step. Which step is very important. But the problem, what we want to solve, is to add value of the minerals. It's not to implement all the steps of the battery value chain.
So at least add value initially, and then develop the capacity. So if possible, one day you can produce the full battery, yes. But for now, it's value addition.
Yeah.
So so has DRC banned the export of raw cobalt?
Yeah. We said it, that we banned the raw cobalt. And also, the cobalt what we are exporting is not raw cobalt and concentrate cobalt, but is cobalt hydroxide. You get just a few transformation. So we need to move to cobalt sulfate, which is integrating the battery grade material. The raw material for battery is, the model we're choosing is the NMC battery. And for NMC battery, the cobalt needs to be cobalt sulfate. So we're moving from hydroxide cobalt to cobalt sulfate.
Finally, what is your advice to Ghana as we discuss lithium? Because we're also contemplating an agreement with a company to extract lithium, and there's a big debate in Ghana. What is your advice to the country?
The advice I will give to Ghana, if I can, is just to see the model. You are not, Ghana, you're not only rely on lithium, because lithium is one part of the component of the battery. So you need to have a model with integrated model. You see which country will need that lithium. We can put together and work together with that country. So you don't need to work alone, because you have many constraints. And also you see many countries wanted to produce lithium. And you need to have like alliance with those countries, then can see what is the cut of the quantity of the lithium you need to produce. You design your model according to what the market is asking for. And you need to have people who does have the technology. So you need to build many things. So it's a full project, and the project will have many components.
Wonderful.
You need to integrate all that component in the project. Especially, you need to build the skills.
All right.
So I don't know, it's the first time you have a lithium. So you are mining lithium, you need to create the competencies to transform and refine the lithium.
Thank you, Professor Hercule Kalele from the Congo Cobalt Council and also the Center of Excellence for Batteries, where they work together with their neighbors, Zambia, to develop the value chain for critical minerals. This is still the point of view. We're turning our attention next to South Africa, where I'll be speaking to somebody else with some ideas from that country on how to manage these critical minerals. Stay with us. about critical minerals, Ghana's discussions around lithium, and looking at quick case studies from across the world. We just spoke to a friend from DRC. I'm going to be talking to a friend from South Africa in the person of Deshan Naidu. He's with a company called AfriVolt, and he will tell us what they do. But for those of you who may be wondering, South Africa is not just known for gold. They're a very resource-rich country indeed. They have vast mineral wealth, including the world's largest reserves of what is called the platinum group metals and manganese. And South Africa as well is known for gold and diamonds and the rest of them. So what are some of the things happening in the South African space in relation to these critical minerals, and how can Ghana copy or modify some of these? So Deshan, thanks for joining us.
Welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So we in Ghana always talk about South Africa as the example of gold, and people compare Johannesburg to Obuasi, where they say Johannesburg is built on gold and Obuasi has been left unbuilt. So is the story as rosy as we see it from there, that look, South Africa's development is largely due to mineral wealth? Is that correct?
Well, you know the saying that goes, not all that glitters is gold. And I think that is very much the case, not only for South Africa, for a lot of African-rich, mineral-rich countries, right? Where initially you have this boom in terms of economic activity and job creation as a consequence of mining activity. But I think in South Africa specifically, we talk about the last 10 to 15 years as being the lost decade or the last decade and a half, where you saw a lot of these big, giant mining companies not investing in exploratory mining assets as a consequence of other issues in terms of geopolitics as well as domestic politics. You look at the corruption, for example, in South Africa, the lack of service delivery. So to answer your question, I do not think that is the case.
But certainly you would say that some of your country's economic development has been supported by a prudent use of the resources from mining, generally.
I don't know if I agree with that. And maybe I'm taking a bit of a contrarian approach.
No problem.
Again, you know, my approach is based not in a representation of my company, but this is my personal view. And the reason I say this is because if you think about the lagging effect of, you know, the multiplier effect of mining and the economic activity associated with it, what we find is that a lot of this wealth has been externalized from South Africa. So yes, whilst we have these mineral deposits, we don't feel as if there's been, to use the word, a just development of these resources in our country. With a lot of these major mining companies headquartered and listed outside South Africa now, and as I mentioned, the lack of rehabilitation of mining sites, as well as bringing in CSOs into the mix and ensuring that the community benefits from this. I think over the last, I'd say 2 decades or so, there's definitely been an increase in the amount of responsibility for mine rehabilitation, tailing rehabilitation, and just ensuring that the community benefits from these activities. But back in the heyday of the gold rush, I don't think these were front of mind, and as a consequence, I wouldn't say that it has been significant value addition in terms of economic activity relative to what we could have.
Wonderful. Now that we are at the, I won't say the cusp of the energy transition, essentially within the middle of the energy transition, what opportunity do you think these critical minerals offer to countries like South Africa, DRC, or even Ghana as a way of changing the narrative?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
So my point is, now we are in an energy transition.
Yes.
What opportunity do these critical minerals like manganese, lithium, cobalt, what do they offer for us to change the narrative around exploiting minerals and basically exporting them raw?
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is a fundamental opportunity. I'm sure you've heard it from the other speakers as well. We are really at the cusp of economic development as a continent. You know, people talk about Africa as the last frontier of industrialization, and I truly believe that. I believe that we have the opportunity that the oil giants had 50 years ago in terms of ensuring that this is the last opportunity that we have to create economic activity in our continent. So we need to do this in a very pragmatic and inclusive way. And it is important to ensure that we actually beneficiate these minerals and create economic activity on the back of that beneficiation, and ensure that we do this in an inclusive manner. So, if we talk about the lithium-ion battery market, it is one of the largest growing industries in the world at this point in time. And Africa is sitting on significant wealth of mineral resources associated with this energy transition. So it is important that we create partnerships, and partnerships I emphasize because I think a lot of this cannot be unlocked without co-opetition and collaboration with our competition in order to actually achieve the quality of resource beneficiation that we require to feed into this value chain.
Your company has been portrayed here at this conference as a good example of an industrial startup that can partner with whether it's government or international players to really add value and also develop local competence. Talk to me about AfriVolt and why it's an important piece in this jigsaw.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity. So AfriVolt is, as you mentioned, an industrial startup. We are pioneering lithium-ion cell manufacturing in Southern Africa, and we're doing this in collaboration with a Tier 1 Chinese partner. Now, if we look at the global battery industry, the reason that this is important is for the audience as well. There's significant strain on the South African electricity grid. And over the last couple of years, we've had significant outages and blackouts on a rolling basis as a consequence of a lack of reinvestment into infrastructure in our electricity grid. And fortuitously, and I think this is for the main in Africa, we have great solar irradiation heat maps. And as a consequence, we've managed to bring in a significant amount, north of 5 gigawatts of renewable energy over the last several years. And aligned with this new renewable energy, we need to also ensure that there's an element of storage that occurs. Because as the sun shines, because we have such constraints on the grid, sometimes the grid cannot support the renewable energy influx. And instead of that energy being dissipated into the atmosphere after being generated, storage becomes a very important piece of that jigsaw puzzle. Further to that, I think if you look at the cost per kilowatt hour and the reduction of those battery cells and the battery products over the last several years, it is now a no-brainer for most renewable projects to have an element of storage associated with it. And this is what we want to do as AfriVolt. Right now, if you look at global market dynamics, out of Asia, north of 70% of batteries are produced in Asia, and more than 95% of processing of battery minerals to battery grade occurs in Asia. So I think as a continent, it is important to ensure that we try and nearshore that, create these regional value chains, and then unlock the economic activity. But again, to do it in a very just
When
manner.
should we expect to see the first few batteries from AfriVolt? Where are you in that conversation? How close are you to your first manufacturer?
We're close. And when I say close, again, this project has been like herding cats, to be honest with you. It's such a complicated industry when it looks at the intellectual property and the transfer thereof from Asian players. I think we are one signature away from hopefully a joint venture agreement, which we aim to announce next year. And then first cells off the line probably towards the end of 2028.
Wonderful.
So that's where we're at in the process.
I wish you well. Hope to talk to you soon. Deshan Naidu is from AfriVolt, a technology industrial startup doing some wonderful things within the battery space in South Africa. AfriVolt is the name of the company. This is still the point of view. We're moving next to Kenya and hopefully end in Indonesia as we discuss this very interesting sector. Stay with us. So the point of view tonight is very unique because beyond discussing a Ghana topic, we're also speaking to friends from across the continent to get a more balanced perspective of the debate around how do we manage our critical minerals. Of course, lithium is the big one in Ghana. The conversation is not just for governments and corporates, it's also for civil society groups. And I'm very happy to bring into the conversation Ikal Angelei, who's from Friends of Turkana. You are co-organizers of this conference, right?
Yes.
So who are Friends of Turkana?
So Friends of the Turkana is a grassroots community organization that really brings the voices of communities. And in this particular role, we are working with TWN Africa and South Africa Resource Watch because they work mostly at a national, regional level, and we are trying to bring the voices of communities because as you talk about minerals or other resources,
Yeah.
energy, it is happening in community lands. So it's really making sure that as we discuss the shift, the transition, that the voices of and the impacts of local communities is taken into account.
My little geography tells me Turkana is a lake.
Yes, it is a
in
lake in
Kenya.
northern Kenya.
And so which minerals are within that broad area? And what do the Friends of the Turkana advocate for?
So where we are is where the wind farm is. So we have the largest wind farm in Africa.
Okay.
And because, as we know, the move to renewable
Renewables.
energy is really around not only the critical minerals, but the critical minerals are contributing to, solar panels and wind turbines. So that we have the largest wind farm in Africa. And what we are basically saying is that as we look at this transition, we've got to ask ourselves, who's bearing the costs? Because communities, whether it is on the lithium, who are being, let's take, for example, the Atewa forest, where your resources are, the people who are being displaced. So we are actually asking the question, who's bearing the cost? And why should certain communities be the ones to be displaced in this transition?
Are the communities in your region involved at any point in discussions around setting up these wind farms? Is it through the chiefs? Is it through how do you get into the conversation?
So usually the government signs an agreement, and in this particular case, the government of Kenya has given guarantee. And so the investors come in and set up the wind farm. While at it, then it means that for the communities, it's the displacement that happens. They are usually engaged for a level of, corporate social responsibilities. But at that particular time, what is the CSR versus the livelihood impact of these communities? So in the essence, communities are rarely informed. And when they are, they're actually informed from a place of vulnerability, less to really engage with.
The challenge in Ghana is usually that chiefs will then go and agree to some royalty payments, which they don't account for generally.
Yes.
And therefore they will say, we support this. In your case, how do you have community meetings? And even if you engage the company or the government, what beneficiation comes to the communities that get affected by this type of exploitation?
So in the Kenyan context, yes, there are community meetings, but again, when it's state-driven, then there's that challenge where you're thinking it is the state. A lot of these places are far from the city, and so the presence of state is quite heavy. When the companies are coming in, they engage the communities, but from a place of, we will give you jobs, we will give you, education, we will give you things. But at the same time, they're not actually recognizing that this is your resource. I think that's the one thing that the beneficiation conversation has to recognize, that this is a resource that belongs to the people. It's take for example, your cocoa. It is yours. So if I'm coming to buy cocoa from you, I'm buying it from you. I'm not asking you that I give you CSR and give you education, so I take your cocoa. So I guess we have to start to really ask ourselves, how do we view these resources, and who is it critical for? How should we engage from a place of ownership, from a place of really understanding? And sadly, because our governments seem to be engaging with this conversation from a place of immediate resources. So there's a desperation for immediate revenues that is leading them to, cut deals, but also their own, again, you see, for a lot of these things, elections are 5 years, but these resources are longer. So you find a lot of the politicians engaging from an electoral cycle rather than a prosperity of the state, of the city.
I find your CSO very interesting, because we do have local community-based CSOs, but they don't really get voice. So for a community-based CSO to be on the continental level, even here, it tells me you have a different approach. And even though you may be fighting for local issues, it's from a broader national context. How did you do that? Because most CSOs who are engaging critically at national debate are based in the capital city, and they're basically donor funded. But yours is doing a lot of things at the same time. So just tell me a bit about your model and what we can learn from that.
I mean, one of the things for this particular meeting, from this, it's a partnership of 3 organizations, but it's also of 3 different meetings. We actually were able to bring together community members and miners from 23 countries to be able to just say, what are some of the community conversations? And I think that is very critical, because as long as, national NGOs are talking about these things, I think they should be informed from communities' perspectives.
Yeah.
And so our model is really, how do you build from the communities, organizing from the communities up, but also, again, our struggles are not specific to Kenya. you've got to also see that they're happening, the same struggles, the same challenges are being faced by communities in Guinea, are being faced by communities in Cameroon, the DRC, as you've heard from my colleague, from the previous speaker. So you see these challenges. And so unless we're able to build a community of practice amongst community members so that they can shape and inform the public debate and advocacy agenda for the NGOs,
Wonderful.
then we're stuck.
So if you're watching this in a community, you have agency, you have voice, as our friend from Kenya, Ikal, has been eloquently espousing. It's not a conversation for politicians or business elites alone. The resource belongs to you, so get involved. It's been great talking to you, actually.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. This is still the point of view. We'll wrap up when we come back. We've been discussing Ghana's lithium deal through the lens of a number of comparative countries. Stay with us. So we're wrapping up with a trip to Indonesia, where that country is one of the world's leading producers of nickel, which is another essential component for these batteries. And my guest is an expert staff at the Ministry for Empowering Communities called Iwan Nudin. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Your country has been seen from our side as one that's done very well in insisting on adding value to a critical mineral. What does Indonesia do with nickel that's so exemplary?
Yeah, because we understand today battery is the very strategic in terms of the transition of energy. Then our government trying to develop the special economic zone for nickel and inviting all over the world to invest in Indonesia for smelter. And we are banned of the raw material export. It's meaning we are trying to make reposition of our position before as a raw exporter material, then becoming the one of the leading country to produce battery. And we invite Euro, we invite Elon Musk, but unfortunately they didn't want to come to Indonesia, and China come to Indonesia more aggressively. So we choose China. It doesn't mean of political preference. It's very pragmatic because China is ready to invest in Indonesia. And what I want to say is we really understand about the transition of energy. Then we need to repositioning our position because from the colonial era until maybe 20 years ago, Indonesia still as a raw material exporter. So we are trying to make a difference.
How long has it been since your country banned the export of raw nickel?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
And you say it's been worth it.
Yeah.
So what percentage of your nickel do you convert into batteries?
And nickel is the one of the resources for the battery, right? With the cobalt and lithium, but also nickel is resources for the stainless steel. Yeah, we understand the stainless steel and also the battery is the base of industrial in Indonesia. So, but actually the downstreaming, it's not only the nickel. We are also make an implementation of downstreaming on plant station, particularly on palm oil, and also in fisheries. Meaning we understand our resources need to make us more richer, and the way to do that is make a downstreaming industry in Indonesia. And our ministry work is for make a implication of the industry. Sometimes it's not good for the community. So the government developed the new Minister of Empowering Community. That's we empowering the community around the industrial area, around the downstreaming area to make them more capacity to involve with the industry, and also they still maintain this economy.
So there's a whole ministry around communities where resources are exploited or where industrialization affects.
Yes.
This is not just for nickel. It applies to oil, palm, and all of those.
Yes.
Wow. How long has the ministry been in existence?
It's just new ministry.
It's a new
actually.
ministry.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you do in the communities?
We have developed the cluster for the empowering community, particularly to propose the poverty eradication and also to make them have a capability to increase their productivity and income.
Amazing. And how interesting is this model for other countries? Because I'm not sure in Ghana there's a ministry for community
Uh,
empowerment yet.
Actually, the government already used the many empowering, right, to the community in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of skill, but it's not organized well and may be fragmented in different institutions. So that's why we understand that Indonesia needs to organize more one institution to empowering the community, because the empowering is the government obligation, right?
Amazing
Yeah.
stuff. So Iwan Nurdin is with the Ministry for Community Empowerment. He is a technical person from that ministry here at the sidelines of this international consultation on energy transition, critical minerals, and structural economic transformation. What would you say Indonesia has got into in this journey of transformation? Is Indonesia an economic powerhouse yet, or you're still in transition
Yeah,
to
yeah.
becoming a so-called first world country?
Yeah, yeah.
Where is Indonesia?
Indonesia is maybe the next global powerhouse in the battery and then in the plantation, particularly in palm oil. But we need a strategy to implement that. We need the sequence of implementation. So we developed the master plan of the industrialization. That's why Indonesian government trying to make a very sequence. The first is ban the raw material export, and then invite the investor, and also we need the collaborating with the more financial institution to invest more on the way of Indonesia to go to the become a powerhouse of the
Wow.
industrialization. Yeah,
Iwan,
it's long journey.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking to us. Iwan Nurdin is with the ministry that coordinates empowering communities, and he's been talking to us in this very interesting conversation around critical minerals, coming to you from the International Consultation on Energy Transition and Critical Minerals. My name is Bernard Avle. We started with Dr.